Hello, everyone. I am Mike Stramaglio, and this is the newly rebranded Stramaglio Show. Used to be Next Week's Life. And today I'm very honored to have Frank Cucco, chairman of the board, and you know him as president and CEO of Impact Networking for years, a hugely successful dealership across the country and and a friend. So Frank is a dear friend, and obviously a huge help to the Executive Connection Summit and the consortium. So we're going to have a little bit of fun today. I asked Frank if he would be kind enough to do a little role reversal with me. So he's going to take it away and interview me, and we're going to have a nice conversation about a variety of different things. So we're honored to have you, Frank, and thank you so much for doing this with me.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Appreciate you bringing me on again. And yeah, this will be a good role reversal. That something new for me, and I think you also.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, for the audience, I'm wearing my Frank Cucco special shirt because I did appoint him or gave him the responsibility that I didn't want to be the ambassador of Italy for the industry. So, Frank, I'm all yours.
Okay, so I thought we'd start kind of at the beginning. So my first question was, what inspired you to even get into the office automation and technology industry? Why was that appealing to you? And how has that changed over the years? How has that vision evolved?
Wow, that's a great question. I have to go back and think about the beginning, but basically, it was an accident. So, I graduated high school, Holy Cross High School. You're probably familiar with it, being a Chicago, and graduated and headed off to my college education and University of Chicago. I started there, and unfortunately, I got pulled into, you remember, the Vietnam War and all of that, and I was pulled into the first lottery, and my unfortunately my lottery number came up quick, and so I didn't really have much choice. I lost my college deferment and was immediately drafted by the Army. And I didn't want to go in the Army, so I went to the Navy. And then when I got out of the Navy, a friend of mine who had also done this, taken the same path as me, he told me, he said, "Hey, Mike, what are you going to do?" I said, I really don't know. I just want to get myself situated." He said, "Well, they got this company called Xerox, and they're selling these copy machines. Do you know anything about them?" And I said, "No." So he had taken a job at Xerox. He was making a darn good living. And I went and interviewed with Xerox, AB Dick, and a few others. And I ended up at 3M. And I found, I didn't know anything about office technology. I found it to be really fun, exciting, and frankly, Frank, you remember back then, it was a pretty easy sale, if I can say
Not a lot of competition back then.
that. Not much. So that's how I got in, and
Very
and
cool.
yeah, very quickly I found I enjoyed it, and it was something I liked.
Okay, great. Well, that's good. Super interesting. I didn't know that. But okay, let me go to the next one. So, what do you see the most significant challenge currently facing the office technology industry is, and how do you feel you're addressing it with ECS?
Well, I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. You've been at ECS and you've heard people talk about the fifth industrial revolution, and we're deep into it. AI, we kicked it off with Microsoft a couple, 3 years ago. And from that point to today, it's been a bullet train. I mean, just technology everywhere, opportunity everywhere. And I see a lot of really important things happening in 25, 26, 27 with the advent of AI agents, robotics, medical industry. It's just an incredible opportunity. And I just see that coming faster and faster. And we are going to incorporate much of that, or as much as we can, into the consortium as well as the Executive Connection Summit in 26. We're working with some really great companies, Frank. Many I've never even heard of. You may have, but we're learning and we're bringing some of these companies into ECS, and it's going to be a hell of a show.
And I agree with your analysis. I think there's huge opportunity right now if people want to take advantage of it, and the technology, the speed that it's charging ahead. is unbelievable. And the question for me really is, hey, how fast will society adapt to these things? Because human nature is really not to adapt quickly. So it's kind of a weird place.
It is a weird place, Frank. And you asked, the other part of your question was, where do I see some, pitfalls or some, some issues? And I think, honestly, for the industry as a whole, again, to repeat, the opportunities are phenomenal. But the biggest hurdle, that I see in our industry is the learning, the knowledge transfer, the curiosity that's required for dealers or the distribution in general, to embrace it, adapt, and take some risk.
Right.
Ti-
Yeah.
It's it's time.
Yeah. Risk is the key. I mean, you have to do that right now. And you have to pick the technology, I think, and then go forward. Okay. So, you've always been in leadership positions. You've owned your own company, so on and so forth. You're the leader of ECS. So, how has the role of leadership in technology-driven organizations changed during your career, which has been a long career from the beginning all the way to what's happening today?
Well, in the old days, as we talked about earlier, it was relatively easy, to hire salespeople, find salespeople, build compensation programs, handle all the typical things the core business handles. One of the things that I think is going to be paramount for everyone, you have to adapt, and hiring people all by that situation of hiring people alone has to have some major changes in the dealer community. I would challenge a dealer, what does your LinkedIn page look like? What does your website look like? And if you can't get that right, then you're going to have some significant challenges in going forward with the next generation.
And I agree with that. I think it takes a higher level employee today to accomplish what we want to accomplish, and it costs more money. So I think people have to take those two things into consideration. It's not the same old, same old. Things are evolving.
Yeah, and when you look at the we're in a generational crisis, if I could say it that way. A lot of older guys or ladies are moving on or selling the companies, and to me, one of the most critical things is bringing in the succession plans. Bringing in the young folks like you've done, with Anthony and Mike Lepper. That to me is going to be again a monumental change and frankly mindset change for most of the dealers that are in our business. Leadership today, I think the first thing you have to recognize is that you're not a very good leader if in fact you're not bringing the younger people up to teach us. So that to me is a focus for ECS 26 as well.
Yeah, I know you have that group, so that's excellent. And I agree with you 100%. I mean, these younger people are coming in, they're super creative. They have the passion. I think no matter what or who you are, the older you get, that passion wanes. And it's great having these people kind of recharge you and get you back into the business because after you run something 20, 25 years, the shine is kind of off it.
Yeah, and the last comment I would make on that, we need people to be more curious. Don't be judgmental. Learn. Be curious. What's going on with robotics? You have to take the initiative to do that. And if you don't do that, you're going to fail.
And you have to embrace new things. It can't just be the same way always. And a lot of people have trouble with change and so on and so forth. So those are all good things. Then I want to ask you, through your career, what was your proudest accomplishment and what lessons did that teach you?
Wow. Um,
And this could be anything. It could be the charity. I know you do a ton of charity work and, it doesn't have
yeah,
to be strictly the business.
it's funny. I'd like to think, and I think you might agree with me. I'd like to think that the best is yet to come. But I think the most proud thing I think I've been involved with really is the Patriot Pack. Um, it's a labor of love. We do it for the veterans. We did it for the Jillian Fund, and we raised an awful lot of money and we helped a lot of people along the way. And I would probably PS to that. I think the consortium and ECS again is a labor of love. It's a genuine commitment to float all boats, it's certainly not a, it's not a, no one's going to sit around and say, hey, how much, how, how hard can I work for how little money? It's truly a commitment to the industry. It's a payback. So between the Patriot Pack and I think ECS, it's something I feel strongly about and I feel proud of.
Yeah, a super proud moment I have was when we were at your house and you received that award and the flag. That was very touching, and I think that's a testament to how hard you do work to give back both charitably and in our industry. And I don't think there's anybody that hits the level that you hit.
Well, I appreciate it. That was an unexpected and unbelievably humbling experience. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So then, how do you see the balance between the traditional office solutions that we're used to, um, and the increasing demand of digital transformation and what companies are going to have to do going forward?
Well, it's clearly there's a clear line between the core business and anything new. And all we have to do is look over the last 4 or 5 years at what you've done at Impact and migrating your business from core to new. And to me, there are probably two or three critically important things. Number one, you got to find the right people. And that is not easy in our world. But you have to have the people, like you said before, who are passionate, knowledgeable, and frankly have the attitude that they're going to be building out new things going forward, a whole new generation of stuff, build out the diversification of your portfolio. And to me, that is those things are essential. You don't have young people, and if you haven't assigned, I say young people, so forgive me for saying it that way, but they've grown up on the network. They've grown up with the internet. They've grown up with mobile devices. If you don't have those kinds of people to build your plan, again, you're gonna fail. If you hire those people, you find those people, they then empower them. Let them bring you a plan that will add new products and services, and they're responsible for it. It's not something they do at 5 o'clock at night or at home or over the weekend. They have to be responsible, talented, and passionate about it. And dealers, as you said before, they don't change very quickly or very well. No human does, but we need to empower them.
Yeah, I mean, empowering is key, I think, and that's something some leaders have a hard time letting go, and they have this, they want to control. But the best results come from getting good people, like you said, that actually know what they're doing and letting them loose. And I know Patrick Layton is a huge example of that at Impact. We brought Patrick on, and he was an engineer at a company, but I could see that he was super talented and underutilized. And he built a $110 million operation for us. And that was me staying out of his way because, quite frankly, I was a copier salesman selling a commodity and I knew nothing about IT. So that's the importance of it.
Yeah, I mean, again, you demonstrated what leaders are supposed to do: recognize what you can't do, and find the people who can, and then have the instinct and the commitment to let them do what they need to do.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and again, you look at you're a member of CDA, and we have all these various groups, and if you looked at all the dealers that have made the commitment to IT services or not, there again is a very clear line, and they better cross that line and enter the new world, or it's going to be hard.
And I think that's one of the great things of ECS. I mean, you're pushing those dealers into learning about these things and actually trying them out. And I've seen over the last 2 or 3 years that progression moving forward. I think it's awesome.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah,
We try.
you're doing it. So this is an easy one for you to answer, I think. It's what's your approach to fostering innovation uh, now in the industry, and that I think that relates directly back to the conference you do every year.
Yeah, by nature, I am curious. I'm always wondering what's next, or how did that work, or why didn't it work. And over the course of the last 2 3 years, the summit has actually provided me with an education I never would have got otherwise, and certainly not so quickly. And I think some of the things that I'm watching right now, when I look into the medical business or I look into, robotics, these are buzzwords that have been hanging around for a while, but they're happening. The other day, I happened to be on a call with a gentleman. I won't mention his name and company because I don't have I'm under NDA, but he showed me. He brought me into a demonstration where uh, they were demonstrating this remote surgical procedure, and then he showed me a video of it live. And there was a doctor that was 3,000 miles away from the patient performing brain surgery. Now, that's one extreme. It's not likely that any of our dealers are going to be brain surgeons, but the robotics part of it was incredible. And
Yeah,
it's
that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing stuff. And you can get the best doctor anywhere, and you don't have to travel to them. They can do the surgery from across the world. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that stuff too. I go to the Abundance 360 conference, and they have a lot of that stuff in there, especially medical, because AI is moving that thing faster than any other industry.
incredible. And now this whole agent thing, oh my God. I mean, what's coming next behind this agent program, the AI agents or even authentic? It's mind-boggling. Incredible.
Yeah, it's going to make people a lot more productive and work a lot faster and more profitable. And I don't think it's going to eliminate endless jobs like people think. I think people are just going to do things that are even more productive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the future of robotics it depends entirely on a migration from current skill sets where they have them, but it's just a new career. It's a new level of career.
Yeah, it's more precise and accurate and better for the patient. Okay, so the next one I have is what is your biggest fear for the industry and how do you think we can mitigate it?
Well, my biggest fear for the industry is, you know, there's not a sense of urgency. There's not a sense of I need to do this and I need to do these things quickly. And I get it. Everyone's in business. Everyone has to watch their EBITDA and profitability. But it's at some point, and I think we're at that point. You can't manufacture hope. You have to manufacture a good plan, and that to me requires a whole bunch of skill, commitment, talent, and frankly a desire to do it. And so if you're conflicted, between, hey, I've had this business for 30, 40 years and I don't want to do anything to disrupt it, that's a mistake.
Right. Yeah, I think you got to keep that going and you got to dive into the pool with new stuff too and have a combination of both, especially as print declines and placements decline. How are you going to fill the bucket?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think anybody in our business would say that print is going to be going back up. Now you can steal some, you could do something, but you better get your plan in place and act with urgency. Not foolish, but urgent.
Yeah, I agree. How do you feel that artificial intelligence and this machine learning are going to affect the industry?
Well, one of my concerns is that I don't think most of our dealer community is as close to the end user client as they need to be. And when I say that, they're close typically with, classic customer service or response times or metrics, right? But when it comes to understanding what your current end user clients are doing, they're not close enough. So many of the things that we talk about, your clients and the dealer clients are already moving quickly to agents and adopting AI in some pretty formidable ways that classically our dealers do not communicate effectively with their own customer base. And that to me is something that I see as a huge opportunity if you can just collect a handful of your own clients and say, what are you doing with agents? Teach me. What kind of investments are you making in these things going forward? And then take that knowledge and bring it into your company. And
Yeah, that's
that's a
good
miss.
strategy. Yeah, that's good strategy. Learn from others.
Yeah, ask them.
I think we talked about this a little bit, but it basically, what do you feel the qualities are do people need in this new world we're living in to be successful? You know, in the old days, maybe it was somebody who's super aggressive and could knock on doors nonstop and pick up the phone and not have, be afraid of that. What do you think the new employees need, other than you said passion, which I agree 100%.
Well, I think in the old days, and you and I could talk about this forever, but in the old days, you had a Fernald Washington cart, you had a station wagon, you pulled the thing around, and you sold it, right? Without hopefully breaking your back. So, but in the old days, they had cliches, right? I mean, the cliche was, "Hey, I'm cash operated, I'm coin operated. I'm a sales guy. I just got out, make 100 calls, I'll sell 10, and I'll make 10 grand." The formula was known. Today, you really have to be empathetic. You have to really understand, what these people need to do. And the world has changed. They're going to be using all modern technologies. They're not going to be banging on doors like they used to with the same result. So methods have to change, but sensitivity has to change. People have to be a whole lot smarter with the questions and training, that they use to bring their sales force along. And I would probably go one step further. You know, is it besides empathy and again the classic philosophical stuff? You better really understand the makeup between the generations. So if you've got forgive me, a manager who's been in the business 30, 40, 50 years, he's not the guy or gal that you want hiring 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds. I mean, get it right, You don't even speak the same language.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Um, how do you maintain a balance between innovation and really staying true to the proven business practices that you created over the years?
Well, so much of that is, imperative. You have John Hay and that committee, that group, and you need those metrics, and they've served the industry extraordinarily well for decades. But going forward, there has to be a new method for collecting data. Data is the currency of the day. It will be the currency of the future. You have to have the systems in place to be able to embrace that data, manage that data, and frankly, that's where AI comes in, I think, very successfully. But data has to change. It has to be not guided. It has to be fed. Meaning, you have to have the tools to get the data, and then you have to have the intelligence to be able to manage what that data is going to do for you to be successful. So that to me is, we talk about it. Everybody talks about it, but there are very few tools that actually work to the extent that you need for the future, next generation.
Yeah, and I think a good point of that is, getting it in one location, some kind of data lake, and then giving your employees the ability to pull that information without having a million, guardrails up so they don't get information because you think somebody's going to steal your account. Giving people information and having them get easy access to it and be able to do Power BI reportings on their own and that type of thing is definitely a key going forward. So again, I'd agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I mean, Frank, just look at what you're doing at Impact. I mean, you literally have hired people who strategically plan out your next 2, 3 years for AI applications and efficiencies, and clearly that's data. That's a model every dealer needs to take a look at, and and their tools are there for them to do it.
Yeah, and there are new tools being developed every day. But you're right, data is going to be the key going forward, and the people that have that data and can use it quickly and effectively are going to be the winners. Um, so, what personal values, what values guide you when you're making these important business decisions?
Uh, the we can learn a lot. We can read a lot of books. We can be educated. We can be a lot of things. But the things I always are my default are the things that I learned growing up. Simple rules from immigrant, immigrant family members. Your handshake is your bond. Don't make promises you can't keep. don't do anything that's going to embarrass your family name. Constantly work harder and harder. Never give up. Those are the things that basically are part of my DNA. Anything on top of that I learn, I think only helps enhance the early lessons that I learned. And they were tough. My grandparents and my family members, many of them came from, Italy and Bari, and they had nothing. The only thing they had was their word and their work ethic, their commitment to family, and that drives me. You know, that's at my core.
Yeah, those are good ones, especially the work ethic. I think that's super important. I learned from my dad to have a substantial work ethic because he was an OBGYN. And at that time, they worked 24 hours a day. It was a small practice, two guys. Today it's much different, but that work ethic is key. And I think something with younger people, they've been through media told, oh, well, you don't have to work that hard and you're going to get all the benefits of that. And it's just not true. And I think it's misguided. So that's one of my big ones. And I think common sense is a big one too.
Huge,
Yeah.
huge. I mean, I don't know what happened to common sense, the old saying, but, but my God, let's get back to it and not overthink. You know,
Right.
I mean, geez, come on, take what you need, figure it out, and then run.
Right.
And
Don't make it overcomplicated.
yeah, exactly.
Who's been your greatest mentor over the years and how have they influenced your career, which spans a lot of years?
Well, there are so many people that I'm indebted to. Um, Besides my family, I take my father and my family out of it, but there are a few people that through the years really kept me on track. Certainly, Bob Goldberg, one of my mentors, Sam Kuzumoto, who was the president of Minolta back in the day when I was there for 19 years. He taught me more than probably anybody over 19 years. But I would say Sam Kuzumoto, certainly Bob Goldberg, Rick Taylor. It's a pretty long list. John Kukta, Barry Simon, Jenny Fisher has taught me a lot. Patricia Ames, huge mentors of mine. The list is long, and I don't want to forget anybody, but those are the ones that come to my mind quickly.
Okay, good. Those are good ones. So, how do you've had a long, long career. You've done a ton of different things. You're still in it every day. You probably work harder than you've ever have. I mean, putting that ECS together. How do you stay motivated through all that?
Well, well, people like you, I mean, keep me motivated. I'll be candid with you. You inspire people just by your what you do. Every time I've ever asked you to do anything, like help out at ECS, you do it, and that inspires me. So I think I'm 74 years old, and I'm a happy 74-year old. Because I've been blessed, and I find it kind of interesting when people shy away from telling people how old they are. But I consider myself extraordinarily blessed. I'm energized every day when I have a chance to talk to young people like Mike Lepper or Cody Simon or any of these people. It's just an inspiration, and frankly, I'll go back to what I said earlier. It's paid forward. We've been blessed and fortunate to be here, fortunate to have the energy, and it's just about helping others.
Right. Yeah. I think that's where you get the most satisfaction is seeing other people succeed and helping other people get their first house or the first car or any of those milestones. What do you think you would want your legacy to be? What do you want or hope to leave behind as a legacy?
There are a couple of things that come to mind, but I think the simple one is that he I did good. I did good for people.
I would say you're a giver, that you give everything you have every day, whether it's in the industry or outside of the industry.
Thank you. That's a nice way to say it. And you know, it it's kind of an interesting question because my mind just goes all over the place. But if my legacy is what you just said, then I won. I
I
appreciate
I think you won.
it.
You should be proud of all the stuff you've done and how many people you've helped, and even myself. And you know, it's been a good ride, and the things you're bringing to people. I don't know too many people that would dive in and want to do all that stuff to help others. So I think you're very unique, or a unicorn. You're an Italian unicorn.
I'll take that. I'll take that. But you know what, Frank? You take a look at some of the surprise gifts. You know, I've known of you and about you forever. And you know, only the last 2 3 years have we really become close, you know, good friends. And and that's, again, the blessings continue. You know, that's just another blessing. If you hadn't had the interest and didn't have the personality that you have, you could have just dismissed me out of hand. And who is this guy? What is he doing? But you've always been gracious and respectful and helpful. So the blessings continue. And then I look at my daughter and my grandkids, and you know, you said something the other day. Grandkids, they're everything, and that's so true. So if you want to be motivated, hang around, you know, 2 and 3 year olds for a little bit.
That's true. I have a 2 year old and a 4 month old, two boys, but the 2 year old, yeah, he keeps you on your toes.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
there's nothing better than him walking in that door with that huge smile that grandpa or grandma's there, and arms fly out. He wants to be picked up immediately. You know, that is really when you get to where we're at, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And I'm happy to say that Jenna gave me my own little, own little Italian tribe with Dominic, Luca, and Nico. I'm covered.
Yeah, you got plenty going on. Uh, well, I don't think I have that many other questions. I don't want to get back into the work stuff after we did the personal. So I think we're good.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're great questions. You made me think. You did a great job, and I appreciate it. And your comments about ECS and the consortium and all of that are uh, near and dear to my heart. So I'm just extraordinarily grateful for your friendship, your support, and I thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. And if anybody wants to come and see what's behind you, that's not an AI image. So before we cut out, what is it?
This I'm in our dot security building. It's the SOC we built like 3 years ago. So that's the background. That's one of the largest screens in the U.S. But like we were talking about before the show, you know, a lot of C-level people really don't understand cyber or what it's all about. So somehow you got to get them excited about it, and there has to be some flash, and that's what that's all about. So that's a lot of the stats. It shows everything coming in, you know, and then we have 100 people down there, eyes on glass. So it's an impressive thing, but that's really how it was developed, and in the way it was developed and how we use it.
Well, it's a great showcase and obviously a great platform to demonstrate what you do. So, Frank, for me and the audience, thank you for sharing their questions with me, and hopefully you found it interesting. And and we'll talk to you on the other side.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate it. That was excellent.
Thank you, Frank.
Take care. Bye
You too.
bye.